Welcome back to the second segment now of our November edition of Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz. I usually have an interview during this section, and we're going to have it, but with someone who is very familiar to you, and that is Dr. Brian Reynolds. So, Brian, thanks for allowing us to turn the tables a little bit.
Turn it around a little bit, yeah.
Let me say a little bit about you, Brian. You've been so valuable in your presence and leadership within the Archdiocese. 27 years. I mean, wow. That's really a wonderful commitment.
Good long time.
Yeah, you and Kathy, and your two adult children
right.
are very active and involved with Holy Trinity Parish, and certainly have done yeoman's work for the Archdiocese. So I thank you for that. Here we are in the new Archdiocesan Pastoral Center. It's an exciting time. Yeah. We just had the grand opening, if you would, and the blessing just at the end of last month. So tell us a little bit about the new name and also how it came about.
Very good. Archbishop, you know, it begins with conversations that you and I have. Sometimes these are conversations while we're driving in the car to go to an event or just in the office.
Yeah, thank God for those car rides.
Exactly right. Get a lot of work done.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the limitations of our former Chancery building. Mm-hmm. Technology was changing. We were having trouble people getting there because of location, and we had a lot of trouble with physical accessibility in the building. And we mentioned what it would be like if we had a new space. What would that look like? And that was the seed planting of the idea. And at that point, one of the things you said, if we ever move, let's get inside an active parish.
Yeah.
And so that's what's happened here. We're on the property now with our new Pastoral Center of Holy Family Parish, which a parish that goes back to the first part of the last century, just after World War I. It was Camp Taylor area, which were the settlement of the soldiers related to World War I were, and then became a parish in 1929, but was a mission before that with St. Elizabeth's and different things like that. And then they had their first school, just a mission school in 1924. Later on, opened a full school in 1927. Now, I tell that history because the building we're in, the Pastoral Center, began with taking the original school building that was still partially standing, the addition they added onto that some decades later, and then we added another addition onto it for the Pastoral Center. So it's a new facility here on Pocker Level Road.
The convent itself was raised, and so gave room for the newly constructed addition, huh?
Unfortunately, there was a big, many-decade-old convent on the property next door to the school that just wasn't able to be maintained. It was in the conditions wouldn't allow it to be renovated for modern use. So we had to take that building down, but we preserved the old school. In fact, we even preserved an old coal room underneath the parking lot. Yeah. So there's a lot of history to the land. This is really sacred space.
Yeah, Brian, one of the really great stories is the integration with the parish of Holy Family. I can't say enough about specifically your leadership in helping to make that come about. There's such a welcoming spirit, and you may mention this, that it's a privilege that we don't have a chapel within the Archdiocesan Pastoral Center, but rather we use the chapel of Holy Family, and that gives us a chance to interact at least every Friday with the parishioners. So it's wonderful.
Well, the real credit goes to the Holy Family Parish Council.
Yeah.
When we first brought the idea to them and said, what would it be like if we had your school building that wasn't being used as a school anymore, if the diocese purchased the school and the convent from the parish, helped with their economic challenges, but would give us the space we need, and then we'd share the property. And part of the things we would share is the worship space of this beautiful church that's on the property and a day chapel. So as you said, rather than building an additional chapel in our building, it's just a few feet out the door. There's a chapel where they use for daily mass, and you've been blessing for the parish to say often the Friday morning mass there, and staff from our buildings come to it, join with the parishioners. It's a great thing.
It really is. You know, we just had the segment on theology of abundance. Here's an example where through your leadership and help, it's a win-win situation. Both are blessed with that abundance. Tell us a little bit now, there's a change in the name and also a prominence and accessibility of the location.
Sure, there's four things we say. First, we changed the name to Pastoral Center to remind ourselves we are first and foremost, as an archdiocese, we'll talk about that in the next segment some more, about serving parishes. Right. So we're now located in a parish, on parish property, and we're parish-centered. So the Pastoral Center, the word chancery is fine, except for a lot of people find that word off-putting a little bit and not sure what that means. The Pastoral Center really is a flavor of it gives us a better indication of what we do. We're pastoral, we're reaching out. That was first. The second thing we did when we thought about this idea and this location was having a place that was more accessible in two ways. Being further down 65 than downtown Louisville, we're a lot closer to other 24 counties. Yeah, we're still in Jefferson County, but the intersection of 65 and the Waterston Expressway is just a block from here. That means people coming from across our diocese can get here a lot more easily and a lot more accessibly from the highways, and saving people who come from Bardstown and E-Town and places quite a good distance.
You know what I see, Brian, when I get on the Waterston, I see the steeple of Holy Family, and that guides me to the Pastoral Center. So I mean,
when you land at the airport, you go right over it.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
So the accessibility physically, but also the building itself. The former property we had was impossible to make it accessible physically. Here we have all the modern things that happen in a building with elevators and accesses and places people can hold on to when they use restrooms and use staircases. It's all the modern conveniences that we're able to build into this facility. So it's accessible physically and its location's accessible. Third thing, we wanted to be visible. You know, our Holy Father, Pope Francis, has been calling the church to be out in the world. And we were 65 years in downtown Louisville on College Street, which was fine, except for just after they built that building, they built Interstate 65 in our front yard. So people didn't even know because it was hidden by the highway. This intersection by the Waterston is highly traveled. Mostly people on their way to the zoo, but it's highly traveled. And so the Pastoral Center of the Archdiocese is something people will see, recognize, and note. And that's part of our outreach. So we're accessible, and we're visible, and we're pastoral. And the fourth thing is some efficiencies. You know, we up until now, besides our Catholic Charities offices, the departments and agencies of the Archdiocese have been in 3 facilities: the Flagey Center, the Maloney Center, and the Chancery. Now we're in 2. We're in the Maloney Center.
It's brought staff
together, which builds all sorts of efficiencies. A few positions less, some better communications, some more integration of planning and work. We're keeping the Flagey Center for our retreat and conference work.
Let me ask you this, Brian, because I know we have just a minute left. Tell us about some of the unique features here, because we want our people to see them.
Well, it's about 50 people work here.
Right.
So there's offices for all of them, from communications to vicar for priests, the Archbishop's office, of course, the marriage tribunal, the superintendent of schools. Lots of people working here. And so there's good meeting rooms. We have a modern boardroom. We have a conference room that seats 100 people at tables for a lot of our presentations and meetings.
That's a wonderful room on the lower level. That's wonderful. That's right.
And then we have this room we're taping in today, which is a kind of a media room that you'll use for press conferences and events like this. We want to talk to folks and put something on tape. We have little alcoves. You know, the modern way to do things is to give people places to interact, to work together. And so throughout the building are these little places, alcoves and corners that have been set up so people have a place to talk and meet together.
Well, Brian, I know we have limited time today. However, you gave us a good overview. And it's a wonderful and welcoming Archdiocesan Pastoral Center. And I need publicly to say thank you to you for the hard work, the vision, and just the great get it to the finish line that you did for us. We owe you a debt of gratitude.
Archbishop, thank you. It's a labor of love. This is a great gift to the next generation of church from this time, at this time of our history, to create this space and to pass it forward. And that's what we're really doing here.
And thank you very much, the viewing audience, for being part of this special segment of Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz. Please stay tuned for the final segment.